How to get rich, okay. Um, so this is just from a mindset perspective that, in essence, to be rich, you have abundance and you have more or less everything at one's disposal. So, kind of like the mindset starting with is the end result, which is like if you had endless resources or something, or extensive resources, that what choices would follow would be to help other people or to spread the wealth. So there's a thought in mind that it's, you know, money and such is spiritual energy. So monetary energy is in essence that. And with that in mind, it just sort of flows among everybody in that respect. So, like, with the thought in mind that it is connecting everyone, and the more that you actually try to accumulate and put before you, the more selfish you are, in essence, in respect to the whole ecosystem and connecting the whole monetary energy system to all people who exist and are alive. And therefore, by accumulating and having a personal stash that's a significant amount per se, that it's actually withdrawing from other people in the ecosystem to have something within the global ecosystem that touches every person, that is exchanged by the presence of you or any one person accumulating more than may be necessary within their possession at all given times. So two things on the flip side of that that make it so it's possible to attain a rich an aspect of richness, and or just actual richness, like being rich, like in an instant for free, just by changing mindset. In essence, is by acknowledging, to begin with, the nature of assets being like, it's not that they're so like the nature of business is, to help people. So like if you're doing well in business, then you're actually accumulating a lot of assets in the form of shares of many businesses, which means that the money is at work, and it's at work helping people in the businesses that are helping solve the problems that the businesses are made to help solve. So therefore the money's at work doing, excess amount of work to try to solve problems, and it's not in the possession of the owner, even though it could be, so to speak. And so at the same time, it's kind of like, because it's a global ecosystem, and if everybody shares all things in the world, then it can become everyone's. That like the more that you give, in essence, like the more rich that you are. Like that's, I guess, the thing, because like if you get more rich, you can give more. So in essence, if you're a billionaire plus or something, it means you have the ability to give more than anyone else. So therefore, it's like if you are putting all of your money to work, all of your assets, it's like you don't actually own anything. Or a person, or one person who's a billionaire, for example, doesn't actually own anything. They don't even have assets, and even their personal assets can be leveraged all the way up to be A, making the most money, and B, not owning anything, including cash, not being cash heavy. So therefore it's both hand in hand, like having businesses is helping solve problems and helping give to everyone, and then B, like if you're all the money is in shares in different businesses, then it's helping to actually grow more money. And that's how monetary energy works. And you're giving the most possible by making the most impact in the world, by trying to give the most and best, and most possible to the world. And as a result, you're not actually holding and accumulating a lot of personal wealth, a lot of personal cash. Billionaires are known and synonymous with being like renting everything, in essence, like everything that's in their personal realm they rent as opposed to own, because it's all coming and going so fast. It's just utility. Everything in their midst, everything that they're touching is utility to help keep their engine going, which is themselves and their time, to be able to leverage their time, which is their greatest asset, to be able to put their money to work the best possible, where they're not actually holding any of their money, and their money is going to work for other businesses and business shares in businesses solving problems. So it's not being held by the owner, and therefore not only is the owner getting more money, but the owner is also dispersing the most amount of that significant wealth at the same time in the most places, and in the most spread out as possible around the world, and that therefore is sharing everything with everyone. Like that's promoting the idea of everything can be everyone's if everyone shares it. In essence, that's helping promote that while still making money as a billionaire, so to speak, and actually not accumulating or not being selfish, so to speak. And if everyone at the same time shares everything, and everyone had that mindset of if everything is everyone's, everything can be everyone's, is what I meant to say. If they share it, then that means that kind of brings us back to square one. Because if you're not the billionaire, if you're the opposite side of the billionaire, then the billionaire is actually holding cash, and you on the other side of the equation, if you're not the billionaire at the current moment and time, have the exact same conceptual mindset as the billionaire. And therefore you're almost energetically actually the same if you look at it that way, because the billionaire is not trying to hold cash, and someone who's not a billionaire is also not holding cash, because they're just not. But at the same time, it's all part of the same global monetary energy ecosystem that connects all 8+ billion people on the planet. And therefore, as a result, there is a fundamental similarity, based on intention, based on just purely the energy that is behind a person's intention and their interest to spread wealth and spread good nature and spread monetary energy to other people in the world, and share it the way it's meant to be, the best as possible. So therefore it's kind of like a hand-in-hand mindset. Like if you're a billionaire and you're putting all of your assets to work and you're only renting everything, if you're in a renting lifestyle where you don't own anything per se in a personal sense, and like everything's going into businesses, so it's doing the most good and the most work for the most people in the world, then you actually don't have a lot as a billionaire. And so it's a conscious choice to just hold more and do more in the world, and like have more impact in the world, in essence, in comparison to just not having a lot of money or whatever. But the conscious choice and switch of the mindset and interest, meaning like the actual, the possessions that are held by a billionaire and a person who's not a billionaire can actually be the same, or pretty much the same. Like if a billionaire lived insanely modest, like they put every single dollar of theirs to work, and technically on paper they're a billionaire, but they put every single dollar of theirs to work. And then there's another person who doesn't have $1 billion at all, but their personal wealth could be exactly the same if the billionaire stretched out every single dollar into businesses so that they didn't live as though they were wealthy as a billionaire. So I'm just saying this is the extreme extent of a billionaire, kind of like Warren Buffett, who literally just had a normal car and house forever, almost exactly like that. Actually, that's a perfect example. And then on the other hand, you have somebody who has exactly what Warren Buffett has and so they are therefore the same. But the flip of the mindset the fundamental flip of the mindset of just wanting to do the most good in the world, like, I think can be the catalyst, and also the single flip and shift that can change somebody into a billionaire just like that, because it's a state of mind that realistically is the thing that caters to being an actual billionaire in the definition sense of the energy sense that goes with the mindset. That's the precursor and preliminary qualifier of being a billionaire, because it's just a measurement of monetary energy before the actual holding of $1 billion, because that's just almost completely irrelevant. It's the treatment of the global ecosystem and the global monetary ecosystem that is the fundamental mindset shift that makes one a billionaire. Because regardless if someone's a billionaire or not, like I was saying, and I'm just repeating, is that, for example, Warren Buffett owns almost nothing and takes a very small salary and lives very modestly, like many, if not almost all people in this whole country, like in the country of the U.S., live in that exact same way he lives, and probably is under par in how he lives in many ways. I would imagine. So, in addition to compared to a lot of other normal citizens. So therefore, again, it's that fundamental mindset shift, acknowledging that the global monetary energy system is there for everybody, and acknowledging that it's a mindset shift to be able to be a part of the greatest global solution to help push that monetary energy in the direction of the most impact, the most noble causes, the most growth that impacts and influences the most people in the world in the most positive way, that creates a positive cash flow and asset flow and ability to acquire more assets, and a portfolio growth that continues to expand and extend, so to speak, while leveraging the monetary system as a tool to create that greater good, versus just thinking that it's all about assets. Excuse me, not assets, but possessions and materialisms as the measurement of who is a billionaire and who's not a billionaire, because it just really comes down to that exact fundamental example of Warren Buffett versus any old person having exactly the same personal goods and personal means. And the aspect of the billionaire who's really doing the best and putting the most compound interest and good into the world, such as Warren Buffett, who was the richest person in the world if he didn't give so much money away, is it has to do with also compound interest from not taking those gains in a personal sense also, because it's all invested back in the company. So it's not only doing the most good, but it's causing the most momentum from a portfolio and money standpoint, and also in the world. So they go hand in hand like that. So the fundamental shift is just wanting to help people the most in the world, and using every resource to be able to do that, and measuring success and also the potential of assets and portfolio growth moving towards and into the future is based around that mindset of sacrifice, and just focusing on the impact and the greater good at the back end of what the assets and the positive influence on the monetary ecosystem can cause, as opposed to any sort of material, conceptual or conceivable goal at the back end of trying to get money, because that's literally the anti-money purpose of money. That's like what makes the idea of money negative, whereas the actual reason that money is really been out there is to try to solve problems and help promote energy that helps to try to solve the most prominent problems, etc. And so that's just a comparison of someone who has nothing compared to Warren Buffett, who has like everything. And at the same time, from having a shift of mindset, it can make one exactly energetically aligned with Warren Buffett. And then it's just a matter of the amount of steps and time taken in the same direction as Warren Buffett to start making impact that starts to have compound interest and effect. And the more material goods that one does not accumulate and acquire, the more the compound interest and faster the growth is of the business and monetary energy on one's behalf, moving towards, so-called, in quotes, billionaire status, because of the fact that most all money that's not being spent on oneself, that is being returned from a business, is recycling and compounding back into a business and back into a portfolio at the most rapid rate possible, based on being the most humble and the least material, heavy of a person as possible. It causes the most good and the most compound interest and growth of a portfolio and assets on an ongoing basis, in terms of an ability to acquire new assets and existing assets yielding, the most from, having the mindset to, in essence, or in essence, to be in places where they are trying to improve, the most thorough things the most thoroughly as possible, because that speaks to demand, and that speaks to fulfilling the greatest demand, and that speaks to helping the most people, and that speaks to trying to cause the biggest returns based on trying to do the most good for people. And that just has to do with sacrificing the most of one's self and one's sort of happiness, one's interest in material goods, one's interest in spending money to reflect happiness, and all of those things at the same time, to refocus and reconcentrate and repurpose that energy back into a portfolio that all has to do with other people. It all always has to do with other people, not the person who's causing the growth and the wealth to begin with. So that's the fundamental mindset shift that I'm referring to, that makes one a billionaire just with the snap of a fingers, if they so choose to walk that path and understand and consume that mindset and adapt that mindset, and then wear that mindset like it's new clothes and never take those new clothes off, because it will change the energy fundamentally to walk in the footsteps of Warren Buffett, for example. And ultimately, upon getting to billionaire, a status of a billionaire or what have you, it's literally like you were a billionaire in the first time to begin with, or before you even got to billionaire status, because the energy changed before you even started in the path of the billionaire path, and therefore it didn't even matter if you're a billionaire or not, because the mindset is a billionaire mindset, which has to do with, again, helping people and that fundamental nature. So once a billion is hit, or 2 billion or whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The same as it doesn't matter for Warren Buffett if he's at 80 billion or 201 billion, because he still has the same assets surrounding him, but doing the most good and causing the most impact based on market demand and just literal actual, business, world business, statistical energy, statistical finance, statistics, energy, etc., that is measuring demand and reflecting on demand, is the only thing that matters. That's the only thing. Like, it's world demand, world interest, bettering the world, sacrificing the most of oneself, that causes the billionaire path. It's not necessarily about becoming a billionaire ever or not, but it's the billionaire path, because with enough time, that person with, enough compound interest and enough focus and enough education on the direction they're walking and how to continue to walk in that direction, has the ability to be a billionaire before kind of, going very far down the path, because the mindset shift had to do with going down the path to begin with, and that therefore connects the person to the beginning of the path to the end of the path, when like they maybe reached billionaire status on paper in measurement of just, monetary recorded ownership of wealth, potentially owned wealth based on, a number of accumulated assets that led to that on paper number. But the fundamental journey started when the fundamental mindset started, and therefore the path of that end result of getting the actual $1 billion in a bank account, for example, and the beginning of the path when the conscious choice to sacrifice the most for the most compound interest and do the most good in the world was made at the very beginning. Those two, the end point of having $1 billion cash in the bank and the beginning of just starting taking the first step down the path, are fundamentally connected in that respect, and therefore the beginning of the path is energetically the same as the end of the path of $1 billion in the bank account. So that's why the fundamental mindset shift is the same as becoming rich and a billionaire with this, like, in essence, snap of a fingers, because it has to do with, in essence, from my sort of belief or standpoint, that it's the most sacrifice of a personal situation, like Buffett did, in essence, where he took nothing for himself and it all continued to compound. And just holding that, essence and theory in mind the whole time throughout the whole journey, and never letting go, so that, in essence, like, the energy that's surrounding the mindset has the ability to try to take it to spool up and create the energy that follows that cause. That's the cause, and the effect is hopefully trying to bring the most resources to that person to do the most good in the world. And having a little bit of business education, just acknowledging demand is based around problems, is a good premise to even trying to start down the path, obviously. Then just reading about assets in the world and how they're all correlating to improving and helping different problems in the world is fundamentally important to be able to measure demand, to figure out which problems and which directions to walk down and which demand to try to fill with supply on an ongoing basis, and supporting the best products that do the best job, that are also helping people who are also trying to help other people. And just being able to try to fundamentally recognize that energy in other people around the world in an ongoing basis, to be able to try to find and help get money and monetary resources to those companies and entities that are moving in a similar direction, flowing in a similar direction of energy, trying to help people in the world as well, and filling different demand pools around the world in a similar fashion, and flowing in the same direction as those, fish in this example are swimming, to be able to continue to flow with them in the current of the, the business ocean around the world, and swim next to them and alongside of them, and therefore, share their monetary and, internal personal energies, and share those energies in the journey going forward and trying to accumulate, solve problems, sacrifice to make the most compound interest and impact on an ongoing basis with other people as you're swimming in the business ocean around the world, swimming alongside as many good proven business fish that you can invest in or try to work alongside as possible, be it a mentor or a company that you're investing in, or somewhere in between, where you want to be a part of their company and try to cause value by bringing demand to their company, or somehow helping promote or bring awareness to another's company. And then there's an exchange or a partnership with those entities or other companies in the world to try to expand your own portfolio and, expand and extend the reach and connections and touches and extensions of your own brand and portfolio into other companies on an ongoing basis, based around that, acknowledgement and recognition of, of corresponding energies of other fish that are flowing and swimming in the sea, business fish that are swimming alongside of you and have a similar energy that you have to learn sort of to build, to be able to, to put out as you're swimming in the business sea. So it's hopefully as best and easiest as possible to swim alongside and find other business fish that help you recognize, how to continue to invest in the right directions and feel like in a continuous flow, that going alongside those fish in the right directions in the sea, the business sea, ocean, is what has to do with continuing to grow the business portfolio with, again, the same fundamental mindset in mind to begin with for the whole path and the whole swimming journey, where it's all about other people on the other end and focusing on the energy of other people on the other end the whole time as the mantra and mindset and affirmation mentally or whatever to continue to drive things along, and then again continuing to swim alongside and in parallel with other fish that are recognized as proven good business fish is also relevant for continuing to build the portfolio and business energy as time goes on, and just having that mindset is something that is kind of like a choice and starts as a choice at least, and can and does need to be built on with more recognition and more education through both of those things. So recognition of more value can come from more education and vice versa, but all of the above, and so that's all good, and that's a slow learning process that can take place after the fundamental interest and decision to change the mindset and mental energy towards monetary energy to begin with. And so that's, I guess, how that would happen. I didn't think it would take that long to say that. Anyways, that's how that can happen at the snap of a fingers, to become rich, even without an injection of, a whole bunch of cash for no reason. Okay, bye.